Hey everyone, Boes here. Welcome back to another Basics with boesthius video. Today I'm going to be talking about another 7 tips that will hopefully elevate your Civilization 6 game. If you guys haven't seen it, Potato McWhiskey made a similar video about a year ago. You can find it up here. It's very useful. Highly recommend watching it. There were some tips in there that I didn't know about when I started playing Civ 6 again, so I would highly recommend watching it there. But this one, we're going to be talking about 7 additional tips that people generally don't talk about. At least I don't hear it a lot. I talk about it on my stream quite a bit, but I usually don't hear it outside of, the streaming community. So if you're wanting to play on Deity, if you want to know a little bit more tricks about, playing Civilization 6 on a higher level, here are some of those tips. After this, I will be doing a tutorial or a domination tutorial as well. There's going to be multiple tutorials coming out with my Basics with Boes series, so I hope you guys look forward to that. I consider myself a domination player, so if you guys are looking to learn how to play domination on Deity, then look no further. It'll be coming out soon. Additionally, before we jump into it, if you guys are enjoying my videos, I would ask if you can subscribe. It's super easy to do. It's free to support the channel, and it's one of the few things that actually helps with the channel out. So if you guys want to subscribe, that'd be great. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoy the video, and we'll jump right into it. All right, the first one that we're going to talk about here is with Gilgamesh. There's a reason why everybody calls him Gilgabro, and that's because no matter what, you can friend him turn 1 within meeting him. That includes even if you meet him turn 1 and then, it's the middle of the turn and he ends up not liking you the next turn. Since that's still counted as the same turn that you're in, you can still friend him, which makes it really nice because there have been multiple times where Gilgabro would be right next to you, and if you don't friend him, then you're going to be facing down, about 4 or 5 war carts. So it's a nice little easy tip because it doesn't require a lot of knowledge. It's just one random little thing that you can know that works every single time. Tip number 2 here, I will be talking about selling Diplo favor. As the game goes on, especially in peaceful games, you tend to gain quite a bit of Diplo favor, and it's kind of sitting there useless as some of the world congresses don't really matter to you. Especially if you're trying to go to space, you don't really care about, religious combat strength and things along those lines. So there are quite a few things to exploit with the AI when it comes to trade deals and things along those lines, and Diplo favor is probably one of the best ones. There are some specific AI that will pay quite a bit for Diplo favor. Christina of Sweden, Wilfred of Canada will do it. Guitarja sometimes does. Greece will do it regularly. There are a few others, sometimes Teddy and sometimes Simon Bolivar. It honestly depends, but those ones are usually the ones that will almost always do it. Christina, Sweden, and Christina, Greece, and Canada. And sometimes they'll even buy it for up to 9 gold per Diplo favor, which can make it really easy to bankrupt them and to keep your gold per turn fairly high. It's also really useful for when, say, you're trying to, you need to upgrade a unit immediately and you don't have any gold and you have a lot of Diplo favor. Just go and ask one of the AI if they'll buy your Diplo favor. This doesn't work all the time, as this was nerfed a couple patches ago, where before the AI, almost every single AI would buy 1 Diplo favor for 7 gold. Now it's usually hovering around 4 gold or so, sometimes even less than that. There are instances, though, still where the AI, such as Wilfred here, will buy it up to 9 gold per Diplo favor, sometimes even more, sometimes 11, but usually isn't that high. So exploiting the AI by selling your Diplo favor is, especially on Deity, is really useful, as it allows you to make your economy more and make your economy higher and bankrupt the AI. And number 3 here may seem a little silly, but it is scouting with missionaries. There are a lot of games where you may have some faith left over, or say, for example, you're going, like in this instance here, I'm playing a domination game, and I'm trying to find the capitals, and I don't want to buy scouts, but I have a lot of excess faith from taking over cities that have holy sites. So what I do is just buy missionaries and use them to scout. Missionaries have a lot of movement speed. They can go through borders, and they're really easy to scout with. Someone, I forget who it was, and I feel bad, but someone had mentioned this in my stream one time a while back, asked me why I wasn't scouting with missionaries, and I was like, that is a brilliant idea, and I don't know why I ever thought of that. It sounds silly, it seems like a little superfluous, but it's just one of those things where, like I said, in this instance here, I was trying to find capitals, and I didn't want to send scouts to find them, since I was, trying to win as fast as possible. So I just use missionaries. The only downside really is that, you know, if they have apostles or they have a religion and they can defend their faith, and they will, they'll use their apostles and or inquisitors to attack your missionaries. Usually it's not that big of a deal, especially if you're going domination. But yeah, it's really the only thing that that stops it. But yeah, missionary scouting. It's a really simple, useful trick. All right, number 4 here is one that is a little bit more complex than just you know, befriending Gilgamesh. It is manipulating appeal. So if you aren't aware what appeal is basically a value that is added to tiles between disgusting and breathtaking. And what appeal does is, the majority of the time you don't really care about it. The only times you really do is mostly culture. You know, when you're trying to build national parks and things along those lines. And if you are unaware, the higher the appeal is, for some things, you know, with national parks, seaside resorts, the greater the tourism is. So with that being said, you can actually manipulate appeal a couple different ways. Each tile starts with an appeal of 0. That's the default value of appeal, and it is modified by adjacencies around it. So if a tile next to it has woods or a mountain, if it's next to like a river or a lake, it'll give you +1 appeal. If it's next to like a wonder, I believe it gives +2 appeal. And also some other tile improvements or other things can give appeal as well. So things like holy sites and theater squares, water parks, things along those lines, preserves will also give appeal. So knowing these things, you can manipulate appeal pretty easily to give you high appeal. And this is important, as you can see here in this gameplay that I'm playing with Boes Teddy, who gives additional culture and science yields based on the appeal of tiles. So if a tile is breathtaking, it'll give either culture or science, depending on whether or not there is woods next to it or a mountain next to it. So you'll notice here in this game that I can manipulate the appeal a couple different ways. If you place down the wonder, as you can see, I'm building Oracle here. That'll give appeal to surrounding tiles. And you can see here, the appeal is not breathtaking on these tiles, but if you chop jungle, which gives you -1 appeal, it increases the appeal on tiles surrounding it. So this is useful for when you're trying to make national parks, especially trying to without having to get, you know, Eiffel Tower, which increases appeal throughout your entire empire. So knowing these things, you can do some specific things like chopping rainforest to increase your appeal, building some specific tile improvements, for example, like the Sphinx, or city-state tile improvements like Paradisas, different things like that. So knowing this, you can utilize this to increase your appeal on different tiles and allow you to manipulate it. And I feel like it's a little complex, but once you get the hang of it, you start to realize how powerful it is. All right, and number 5 here is swapping tiles between cities in order to get an isolated tile. That sounds like it shouldn't matter, but for example, in this city here, you can see that I have a nice little industrial zone set up here, and on that top left commercial hub, which is right below Fez, I don't want to be owned by Mainz. I want it to be owned by the top right city of Trier. And so there's a little trick that you can do to isolate that tile. And it just involves swapping tiles. Now, this may seem a little simple, but it's very useful. For example, as you can see here, I swap the tile over to this city. So technically, that city owns both of those tiles, but I only want the top left one to be owned. So I just swap it back into this city. And now, as you can see, I can place down this Hansa here in this city, lock it in, and with the other one in the other city, I can lock it in there as well, and now that city owns that tile. The reason why, like I said, it may not seem like it's a big deal initially is because before, if you try to swap them over and lock them in, you will not be able to. It'll be owned by that tile. You won't be able to swap it over, and you'll have to build it somewhere else. So here's another good example here is I am trying to build this city's industrial zone right there, but I want Mainz to own that tile to have the dam in there. And so we'll go ahead and swap it in, swap the tiles over. And now Mainz owns the tile with the dam. However, Trier, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, Trier owns the tile that I want that industrial zone to be in. This is nice, as I said before, so you can isolate specific tiles to have your districts in, or if you want one tile to have a better district than the other, that is the main reason there. So little cute little trick, not anything game breaking, but nice little trick to know. Okay, and number 6 here that we're going to be talking about is it's kind of an exploit, and they said they had patched it out, but it has not been patched out yet. It is the map pin exploit, and it's basically a way to figure out where you are on the map. So if you want to know, okay, is there tundra up here? Is there tundra down here? You can do this little trick with the maps. I talked about it in my previous video, but if you click the map tax, go to add tack, and you go all the way up to the top, click OK, place the tack and click OK. Now you can extend further up on the map. And when you delete it, it brings you back down. The same thing with this here on the bottom, on the south. So as you can see, using this, you can tell we're closer to the north than we are to the south of the map. So we're like center north, which is very useful because then you get to know, okay, up here, there's the north. There probably is not another civ around this area. And so you know that tundra is going to be starting about right here. So you've got some free land to settle in this area, right? The same thing, you know, with down here, you know that this is the center of the map, or closer to the center of the map, so there's probably more likely there to be civs down in this area. It's a cute little trick. It allows you to, you know, figure out where you want to settle, things along those lines. And yeah, and it's not super game breaking. I mean, I guess it is a little bit of an exploit, right? You get to know where the edge of the map is, but I mean, I don't think it's that big of a deal. So yeah, there you go, the map pin exploit there. And number 7, the last one we are going to be talking about here today, is settling resources. Now, I get this question asked a lot, and people notice it all the time, why I settle on resources, and there's a couple different reasons. Number 1 is that you get that resource. So the first one we'll talk about is luxury resources. Obviously, this is not on freshwater, but for the sake of just the video, we're gonna settle on it regardless. When you settle on a luxury resource, you get that tile. Well, okay, that's very obvious to say, but you get that resource. So settling on it here, you'll notice 2 things. 1, we lost a production, which is, I'll go over that in a second, but 2, we gained culture. Now, why is that? Because with the amber tile that we settled, amber has a base yield of +1 culture. And so whenever you settle on that resource, like for example, we did with this luxury resource, we gain that +1 culture forever. Additionally, now we have amber forever. That means that it's very useful early game. Say for example, if say we started right here and we saw the olives here, we can turn 2 settle the olives. We get the olives, which means we get that extra amenity. Additionally, that means we can also trade the city, or trade the olives if it comes down to it, right when, you know, if we meet someone and we want to get an economy going. Additionally, we would gain that extra gold per turn. Whenever you settle a resource, you gain the additional yield for the rest of the game in your city. That is applicable to bonus resources as well, as with on top of luxury resources. Now, the reason why you may be asking, why did that production disappear? This was 2-2 before. It's because there were woods on this tile. A city is always going to have a base yield of 2 food, 1 production, no matter where you settle. If you settle on tundra, if you settle on desert, if you settle on grassland, plains, etc., it's always going to have a base production of 2 food, or base yields of 2 food and 1 production. Whenever you settle on a feature like jungle or woods, it gets rid of that feature. And since this tile had a feature of woods on top of the amber, it got rid of the extra production that it had, and it brought it up to the base yields of 2 food and 1 production. That is why people always suggest, and I myself always suggest, settling on plains, which is, if you see here in this Potato McWhiskey video of where I settle and why, settling on plains brings your city up to 2 food and 2 production, because since the city center always has 2 food and 1 production as a base yield, and since this has 1 food and 2 production as a base yield on the tile, it's going to bring it up to 2 food and keep the extra production, because that is the yield of the tile. The same thing, as I said before, applies with bonus resources. The thing that you're going to notice here, however, when I settle the banana, is that you'd think, okay, since this is a banana tile, it gives 3 food and 1 production. My city should have 3 food and 1 production. However, in this instance, it doesn't. It only has 2 food in 1 production. And the reason is, recalling back to what I had stated before about features, this had jungle on it, which is why this was giving this plains tile an additional food. So if we were to, settle it normally, it would still have 2 food, 1 production, and bananas generally initially don't have 3 food on them. So that is why, even though we settled the bananas, it is getting rid of this and only has 2 food, 1 production. And if you look over here, and we can go to the cattle over here and show that in action. So the cattle, it has 3 food because the cattle give an additional food to the tile. This has 2 food because it is a grassland tile and not a plains tile. So if we settle this, we should have 3 food in our city and 1 production. And as you expect, that is exactly what happens here. 3 food and 1 production on our tile. Obviously, this does not have freshwater because we settled off of freshwater. We're ignoring that because this is, for purposes of the video, settling on resources. So more often than not, I will suggest, if you can, if it is on freshwater, to settle on a resource because you still get the yields from that resource. Obviously, in this example, we didn't get them for the bananas because this is a plains tile, which is 1 food, 1 production, and the bananas only give 1 food. When you take away the rainforest, that brings it down to 2 food, 1 production, leaving you with a 2 food, 1 production city. That is a general case for most settling locations, and I will go further into depth on this when I make a settling video, but for now, this is a good tip for settling on resources and why you should do so. All right, well, that was 7 tips. I hope you guys found those useful. There are oftentimes I forget to use them regularly, even in my streams, even as a Deity player. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. Like I said, domination tutorial is coming out later in the next week, and the rest of my videos will be coming out too. After this Byzantium playthrough is done, we'll be doing a Japanese 1 city challenge, additionally a Vietnam domination challenge, which was an insanely fast game. And then I have my Peter religious victory, which is the first religious victory on my channel, and I think it was like a turn 115, so that's an insane game. So anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you guys have any questions, any feedback, please let me know in the comments, and please don't forget to subscribe if you like the videos. Yeah, so I hope you guys liked it, and I will see you as always every Wednesday through Saturday, 12 to 4 p.m. Pacific time at twitch.tv/boesthius, and I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Bye.